Dare to say it.
Dare to say it.
Dare to say it.
Right. Can be mine. Just mine. And you, Khoisan man, stop jumping this fence. Says I've been jumping this fence for 1,000 years. This fence wasn't, you put up the fence and then all of a sudden the land changes. Nonsense. Nonsense. This kudu jumped the fence. What am I supposed to do? I'm hungry. I must stop. And then your goats keep going here in front of me. Just spray food. I must not eat. I'm not a family guy.
Yeah.
So that culture clash really was really terrible in the beginning, especially for smaller like nomadic tribes like the Khoisan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I really have seen very, very few First Nation people in South Africa.
Where did they all go?
Well, there was actually an official genocide in the Cape, right? Where the farmers got together and they were sick and tired of these Khoisan people jumping their fences. And the magistrates would then give them permission to say, listen, if you kill one, we'll give you $1. Right? So they would go and kill all of these people and come back with the receipt to claim this cash. You can actually see it at Freedom Park. Right? They've got lists of those receipts. They say, I killed 100 this day, I killed 20 this day, etc. Just to clear the land, because the Khoisans are different. They have the space.
At the Khoisan.
People are moving around. So they saw them as a pest. And this is a very dangerous pest. I mean, it's a full human being, hands, fingers, thumbs, jumps over, can make plans, etc., and just ravaging your space. So yes, there were genocides in South Africa where hundreds of Khoi men, women, and children were just killed as pest control, if you can say that.
Pest control.
Yes, because obviously if I have a homestead and these people keep on coming and building on here, I can't say that I've had exclusive use for 10 years, 20 years.
So
Keep on setting up settlement.
the unaliving of so many people was pest control. They thought of it as pest control.
Yes.
The people they
let me just get this up here. I'll just put it on screen.
No, it's like the Americans, when they describe black people, they say that they were 3/4 of a man.
Yeah.
So in terms of them in South Africa saying that they pest, meaning that they are really they're in the land, or they're not authorized to be there. Like
The difference
a cockroach.
the massive unaliving of human beings being referred to as pest control.
No. The pest control is what I'm using, but it's more or less that.
More or less that. Like we need to keep them away, and the only way to do that is to unalive them.
I mean, like that's what you do with the cockroach.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do what you call fumigation.
Yeah, rats and what.
Yeah.
So here we go, study.
That way you don't have any of
So you guys haven't heard about the Khoisan genocide? No. Okay. This is why this conversation is important. This is why this conversation.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Or maybe not.
unless they've done research about it.
history is saturated.
Like even in schools these days, they choose what to tell and what not to
I think a lot of important things have been omitted from the syllabus and from history, like when CAP was introduced in the 2010s and so on and so forth. Because I think history in the 90s and early 2000s was more Eurocentric, and then in the 2010s it became posts about indigenous people, but also not in depth, or unless you wouldn't want to tell a grade 4 about genocide.
So here we go.
That's unaliving,
So
but-
being
And like I said, rankings are how we treat it.
history, there we go. A total extinction. Confidently hope for the disruption of Cape Fan society under Dutch colonial rule from 1700 to 1795. Okay, so this is a paper in the Journal of Genocide Research in 2010. But yeah, that's the Bushman Society. And yep, that's what they did. That's what they did.
Just a quick one.
Okay, cool. I'll just take that. I've got it. So it's systematic because unfortunately, the Western and Northern Capes, right, have large Khoisan populations. Because unfortunately, for the Khoisan, it's not a large or warlike civilization like Zulus that have impi and warriors and stuff like that. They're living with the land. But then what happens is even when the Bantu peoples come further south, they then push them slowly further and further away to dry Western Cape, which is mountainous, arid
region.
Peru, arid. So you see them now in Botswana, Kalahari Desert, Namib Desert, etc. Not by choice. I mean, no one would live in that type of situation by choice if you could live in the Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, right? It's just that slowly they start pushing you that way because you're not warlike, right? And then sandwich. You get these people from the north basically making a border around Lesotho, and there's now white settlers coming from the other side trying to push you out. So I think the highest population of Khoisan people today would be in the Northern Cape. Because of the damaging effects that has been happening. And still today, there's living quite terrible conditions because in Botswana, for instance, they've got camps where only Khoisan people live till this day. In the Kalahari Desert, where they'll bring you water in separate schools, etc. But they're not considered to be Tswana. They're considered to be this other thing. And they've got places where they stay.
So the way you explain it seems similar to the Red Indians.
Exactly.
But then
Exactly.
they didn't benefit anything. They didn't give them any deal, but to shut them out and just keep them out.
So Botswana. So the Khoisan from there are called Akhalahari, I believe.
The Khala.
Okay, there's a whole little history there, but I don't want to rely on Google. Right? It's just that I want to show you that what I'm speaking about here. This is a real thing. This is a real thing. So treatments.
I think it's interesting how we've heard about the San people, the Khoisan people, but not in depth. It's always about how they're indigenous people and how they used to forage and all of that.
Yeah, it seems that they are just, they're just like a Genesis 1 story. Like, hey, in the beginning, there were the Khoisan, they were hunter-gatherers. No, there was society, and they are, it's not just Khoisan. Khoisan would be like a group, like saying Nguni. Right, there are Namas, there are Rikwas, there are Damak, there are all of these like different type of tribes that speak different languages, right? Within them, and because they are so nomadic, it's obviously these languages differ. But it's also very difficult to find out all of this history because it's all oral, right? However, I think that if you look at Talmud, if you look at Catechism, if you look at the Muslim one, Hadith, these are things that come after the holy books. So there's the Torah that's written, then the Talmud comes. Oh, the Talmud is younger than the New Testament, by the way, even though the Jews are thousands of years older, right? Just that we assume that, okay, the Torah came with Moses 3,000 years ago. This probably came 2,500 years ago. No. Oh, this came 500 years later. Before that, they had like other writings and stuff. They could capture the oral history, but the whole time they had an oral history.
Okay.
So they've got these books, and then they've got an oral history behind it, right? So they've got some facts, but we trust that oral history. When it comes to Christianity, we trust that oral history. United Churches have catechism. We trust that tradition, that oral history. But when it comes to African tradition, sometimes we're a bit skeptical. But I think we just need to get to the level where we say, the oral history of African people should be given the same respect as the oral history of Jewish people and Hindu people and etc. Right? Because there was a time where writing was just impractical.
Yeah.
Right? Because you must remember that at the time when Alexander the Great comes into Israel, most of what is written is on tablets and pieces of bronze and parchment and things like that, but things that fade, right? Only later, just around the time when the Quran comes out, we start writing on animal skins and things like that. But papyrus and paper only comes later. Then it becomes easy.
I think you make a very strong point. I think a lot of young people don't know African history.
Or know a little about it.
See, this is one of the advantages that Europeans and Asians had, is that because paper and writing was so cheap and available, right? We wrote things down, and then 20 years from now, it's easy to know what Yan were thinking, right? So, for instance, the Chinese have records of what they were doing at the battle with Zhao Anzhu. Zhao Anzhu was the first general in China that actually used gunpowder, right? Hundreds of years before Europeans did. And then he took over this Chinese empire, right? So, but because those things are written down and we know what happened. And the first emperor of China, I can't remember the dragon emperor, the one that was buried with the terracotta warriors, right? We know what happened to him. We know that he was killed. He was carried around in a fishbowl for some time because his body was rotting. And we're like, hey, he's not dead. He's alive. You just don't see him. And I feel it long ago because people are writing it down, right? But when it comes to African culture, it's a bit difficult because we don't have that original source. Over and above that, we don't have a writing system. Okay? So you write Zulu with the Roman letters and Arabic letters, etc., with our A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? We have chosen some of those letters to make sounds like and stuff, you know. But we've taken that alphabet, etc. Whereas there is a Chinese alphabet, there is a Indian alphabet. So there are cultures that had writing, and it's easy then to remember. One place where history is almost gone is in the Americas. So those Inca, etc., when we think of Inca warriors and Aztec warriors, we're thinking, 1,000 years ago. No, that was just 500 years ago. It's all we know. Because there's not much written down. Right? So it's a sad thing.
So the closest we can get to even worrying about this history, they're talking to someone who's alive then, and chances are it's almost impossible unless this person is like 100 years old and
it becomes more difficult as you move further south, right? Because so for instance, my great grandmother remembers a time before white people were a thing, right? So I'm talking about people that were born, maybe in the mid 19th century, 1850, around there. Because what happened is that the Great Trek happened, and then a lot of white people started moving out of the Cape. And first they went into Lesotho and Natal, and then the Orange Free State. Eventually they got to the Transvaal, but they start with Gauteng and the Northwest, and eventually they get to Limpopo, right? So there are people there that will say, we don't know these things.
We've never seen a white person.
never very
Yeah. Oh, man. What? You mean
people that
Filipino?
don't look like us.
Oh, yeah. Filipino. No, the hair straight like what? Like a horse. A peasant. Oh. So they would remember those times, and they were the people that you had
to speak to,
right?
That you could,
Before they get too influenced. That I would tell you that, listen, she should say, like, listen, there was a time before we had stamp, right? Before stamp, because stamp is corn, and corn's not an African crop. Pap is corn; it's not an African crop. There's a time when black people were not eating pap.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? Because pap, as we know, it is hominy. Pap is it's corn that is ground down fine to maize meal. If it's half, it's grits. If it's less coarse, it's damp.
and it's an African dish.
We consider it an African dish, actually an American dish. Corn is. No, it is.
I mean,
because
yes, it
we've
is now,
embraced
but it's.
Because we've embraced it, but before it wasn't.
it. Because the crop just wasn't.
I can't imagine a time where Bob didn't exist.
You get what I'm saying?
It's like it's
It was mind blowing to me to find out that we know what palish is, right? Ipapa and what. We know palish, porridge. You're making a porridge, it's palish. You get it? And then the white people, the Afrikaans people say, there's a pap, and you call it ipapa. What? And we assume that that's the native word that we've had for. Listen, we had starches. We had our own starches, our cassavas, our all of those. Like I remember Mchumbulo. Remember Mchumbulo.
What is that?
You know what is this? All I
I'm
remember it was like it's a tube, it's like a root, but it looks like a candle. In the middle.
Like cassava?
It's like it, but I see cassava is more like cassava looks like
Cassava is like it's got a very
waxy.
thick and strong exterior.
Yes.
But then when you boil it,
Uh-huh.
it has a string inside.
Yes.
Let me just see.
That's cassava.
there was cassava, but apparently
It's got a string inside and it's a very hard
Yeah,
experience.
so because this might be it. Yeah.
so that is
Yes, it comes like this. It comes like this. So you see, Mdlumbolo is clearly an African word.
yes.
Mdlumbolo, like my grandmother used to say, hey, the name Amatapi.
Yeah.
You guys call them African potatoes now. I see them in Woolies. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, nah, it's a Matapi. Huh?
I see it's
Yes, they're selling them in Woolies.
Oh, they got this.
Before they didn't, because it was our food, right? But pap wasn't. Especially pap, as we know, it, like corn-based maize meal. No, because the crop that it's made from, the corn, is not something that's native to this particular area. We had millet, we had sorghum, we had mjumbula, we had matapi, we had all of those type of things. They had mahungu in Namibia, which is like a type of millet. They've got all of those type of things, which you can make ipapa from, but it's not the pap that we know. And once corn and wheat grow here, then we start seeing these things. So harage and pap, kampalish and pap.
But imagine how interesting it is that you got to hear these stories.
But you'd only hear them from people who said, hey, these people came here with a crop that grows a lot. Right? And it's easy to take care of. Because like mahungu is a bit difficult to process. Rice is a very difficult thing to process, you know, especially you want to make a powder out of it. But here they come along with something that you can dry and you can keep for years. Right? You can grind, you can make a stamp out of it. And stamp is basically that. Stamp is just easy grind. It's harmony. If you grind it more, it's grits. If you grind it fine, it's pap. That's that. So this is the type of history that people should know, that listen, there was a cross-culture interaction. You know?
I think that's super interesting.
Coffee and tea, not necessarily our things. Maybe we did drink other things that we made tea from, right? But the word is not something that is from our indigenous language. Or we just assume that it is because most of us eat it. Like when we have anything that we're chowing these days is pap.
Yeah.
Right? No, pap ninyama. What? Where's the word? Someone should just help. Maybe someone put it in the comments. What is the original Swati of Zulu word for pap?
Very good one.
That's
We
very
know
good.
the real word for papa in standard language.
In Bemba.
It would be shima.
In Shima.
Shima.
What does that mean if you could break it down, like with the etymology?
If I
have
Shima, I would.
I just know that they call. I remember for the first time when we went to Zambia, and everybody.
I think Shima would be in Nyanja, and then there's in Bemba it's Uwali.
Is it not
It's Uwali in Bemba,
Uwali
and then
Okay, but
Shima.
what I'm saying is that the
But what's
word,
that word?
yeah, like what does it consist of?
I wouldn't.
You know?
I wouldn't be able to.
I think like the etymology of the word say, okay, wali means this because pap is a texture in
Yes.
Afrikaans. It just means it's soft.
It's soft.
It's soft.
So it's
Yeah, that's pap. So when your will is flat, it's pap. When something is not hard, it's pap.
Like I've heard a lot of people.
I always say
Yeah, like you know pap sack. Pap sack. It's got that texture.
I think there's a reason people use now, like your life is
It's pap. You know, it's pap. But so there was a time before pap when we were eating other things.
But would we have ever known this information if
That's the point of our talking today.
see
That's
that?
the point of our
That is super interesting.
know that there was a time before that. And I see corn is infiltrating even like in Maasai culture and those West African cultures where people used to have like mostly carnivorous diet, right? Because a lot of people might be saying, listen, don't eat meat. Okay. Imagine that. Imagine I'm in the Serengeti. Okay. And a plain. The ground is not very fertile apart from growing types of grass, reeds, stuff like that. The trees are thorny, but they're not enough to support civilization, right? But one thing it does have is that it has a lot of wildlife on it, right? So in order for me to feed my family, I've got two choices. Okay? I can try and plant something that doesn't grow, or I can try and raise something that eats the things that are all over, right? So for instance, Mongolians have a lot of horse meat, horse milk, etc., right? And that's how they get their protein, their dairy, etc. Because the landscape is rocky, it's hard, it doesn't really grow much other than grass. But here's the animal that I can eat the animal, and the animal can eat the grass.
Because it's a herbivore, so
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
can survive.
So
That way, then I can eat the animal.
exactly. So the animal, the chicken, the cow, the sheep, it's basically a transformation system. To say, I can't eat grass. You eat the grass, I eat you. I can't have dairy anywhere else. But you eat the grass, have a few babies, give me some of your milk. No, so that is the concept behind having livestock. And that's why you see and especially, let's say it starts snowing, nothing's growing. I'm warm, I'm inside, my pigs are warm, they're inside, my cows are warm, they're inside. What do I eat?
The livestock.
Okay, that's it's
Yeah, so this vegetarianism thing, it makes sense when you're in a place where it's abundant. So tropical cultures where there's poppers and what growing for days, those type of cultures don't necessarily have livestock. Like Hawaiians don't need livestock. They can go hunting, it's enough. There's enough growing around there. But when I'm living in a place where resources are limited and the resources aren't things I can use, I want to eat the thing that can eat the thing I can't eat. That works. Yes, I want to eat the thing. So I'm living in a place that's just grass and I've got goats. And I see that, listen, this type of springbuck, this one, it tastes nice and it will eat this grass. It's just it's jumping far. Let me catch it.
Okay, so
Eventually it turns into a goat. I'm happy.
brings me to my next question.
And you asking the question.
Yes, I just have a little question that I wanted to probably talk about. It's regarding cultural foods then.
Okay.
Right? So if obviously corn, which is a great example, we would then say, are the cultural foods we have today actually part of our culture, or is it something that we just obviously
embraced
and affected over time because of Dutch people or
Okay. So I think that maybe we need to separate or define what we call culture. For me, culture is a worldview, a way of thinking, a way of what we teach our kids on how to be. Right? That is our culture. So for instance, a very things that we see every Friday, for instance, we know what a Jewish culture is.
Yeah.
Right? They believe they're God's chosen people. Other people are not God's chosen people. They believe that they've got the laws from Him Himself, and this is what they teach their kids, and they say, "This is what you are to the world. You are the light of the world. You are God's chosen people. You are representing it." That's the culture. The challah, the what else? The challah, the rashi, that's not the culture. That's the foods we eat.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And we'll say that they're cultural foods, but that's for me something separate. Is to say, okay, fine, we've got expressions of that culture, and then foods that we eat that are available. But I don't think the food is actually part of our culture. Let me give you an example. If I live in Hawaii, and I've got Jewish culture, right? There's no corn. There's no wheat growing, right? And there's only fish most of the time. The food is available for me, and there's a lot of tropical fruit, which I don't have in Israel, right? I start eating that food because that's what's available, right? A lot of people used to, like when the Americans, when the first settlers came to the USA, they came with things that grew in Europe that didn't grow in America.
Okay.
Right. So are we then saying that the food is the culture, or the food maybe, let's call it traditional cuisine?
I would say food is a part
Mhm.
of the culture.
Are you then saying
I would say that food is part of our tradition.
Yes.
Right? So it's practices that we've adopted, and they have then become. We do them so constantly that they become linked in with us, like a language.
So they become a part of it.
Yes, they become a part of it. But I don't think that food can exist before
Before
culture,
culture.
or but I do think that culture can exist before food.
of course?
You know, so I eat what I eat. You remember the Syrian restaurant we went to? Funny things that they're eating.
Yeah.
But when I'm going there, I'm still my culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still my culture.
Very true.
You get what I'm saying?
If you're eating yourself.
Yes, yeah. So if I had a child in Syria and that child is eating hummus and what, the child's culture is still our culture.
So cultural food is not necessarily culture.
No, I wouldn't say so. And I think that's very important because a lot of black people would say, listen, my culture is the way I dance, the way I dress, etc.
Because
But
that's these days.
I think your culture is more than that.
So at school, that's why I'm bringing it up, because at school, you see with Latin Ireland during the year, they have Heritage Day. And Heritage Day is obviously tradition, culture, and all that stuff. And they come in their traditional attires, and they need to bring a traditional dish that obviously is part of.
Yeah, so tradition, I would agree. That listen, because traditions are just common practices that we all have as a group over time.
But
But I do not think, for instance, I do not think that hummus is a part of, is an expression of Middle Eastern culture. It is the food that they eat. Okay, they could have the exact same culture and be in Africa where they don't have those what's it, chickpeas,
yes.
right? Or they eat a lot of wheat, right? If they were in Africa where there is no wheat, they could still have that Arabic type of culture.
I strongly believe that they are a part of culture. They're a part of make culture. They're the parts that make up what culture really is. I think, for example, a Zulu tradition or speak to people or whatever identifiable by what they eat and how they look, what they dress like. You know, so that's how we can say, oh, these people are Zulu. These people are white people.
So that's why I would say there would be expressions of that.
Expressions of culture.
Yes. But for me, I think the core of culture is our belief system regarding what we are. Right? So for instance, let's take English people. English people are white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. They don't believe they have a pope, but they believe that they must spread this message all over the world, and the whole world should be English. So that's why they started an empire, right? So Don Rhodes in his will wrote that I'm starting this roast fund one day hoping to get back the USA. It's part of his will. Yes. And he was here. His mission in the Cape was to have Britain from the Cape to Cairo. You get what I'm saying? So that's his culture. In his mind is I conquest for the crown. That's part of his culture. Whether he's eating malumhodu or he's eating haggis. Yes, but I do think, okay, but to your question, I just sidetracked there. I think that they are traditional foods because we've been eating them for so long.
Okay, but it's not.
I do not think that they are Aboriginal foods.
Okay.
I do not think that it's the foods that we ate when we were Zulus for the first time.
Yes, so then that answers my question. That the culture of food we eat today is not what we used to eat back before.
Yeah, but it depends when you say when back before.
So I mean before we
so we think BC like before what?
BC before civilization.
Well, no, I wouldn't say before civilization.
Yeah.
Before civilization. Before
Before
Christendom. Okay, cool. So before Christendom, pap is not there.
So pap is definitely out.
No. There's certainly a lot of meat. There's certainly a lot of amasi and products. Because remember, cows are important to us because they provide us with clothing. Okay, they provide us with building materials. They provide us with stuff that we can make utensils. No, the bones. Bones provide us with stuff that we make utensils and weapons with. They also provide us with food, with dairy, etc. I can take the dairy. I can make. So most of the time they would be eating some beef with sour milk, right? But a type of yogurt. That's what they would be having. It would not necessarily be a starch that is corn. So that's it. In addition to that, the way that we braai isn't the way that they braai.
Okay.
Because they didn't use braai stands.
No.
No. So for instance, the way my great grandma over open fire, you can either hang it if it's big, or you wait. No. So you make the fire until the fire dies and it's just coal. Right? So then you put the meat directly on the coal. Right? The benefit of that is that charcoal is absorbent of toxins. So if I eat a meat that's that charred, and they don't do rare and blue and what, no, say pegalet. It's gonna be well done. So in doing that, you make sure that all the bacteria is killed inside it. It's healthy, and I'm also consuming these flakes of charcoal that then make me resistant to other things. Yeah, so if I'm eating something that's off, the charcoal is in there absorbing. So
Really good for your digestive system.
So the way we're making shizanyam,
Isn't the way it's made.
no, it's not. So we say, hey, we're making braai. No.
So then,
The braai that we make now, just by the way,
yeah.
is an Afrikaans thing.
Yes.
Because braai people would come with braai stands. A potjie is a Dutch pot that they used to carry with them all the way during the Great Tray, because it's a way that you can cook over a small fire outside. I just hang it up and then I cook. And we weigh everything inside it because I don't have space to also make 7 colors.
It needs to
No.
all be in one.
Mariki's got a potato, she's got some bread, she's got this, the bread is one side, she puts the meat, she puts the ice, she puts everything in this pot. And I must sharpen it one time. That's a potjie. You get what I'm saying? And that's part of their culture that they then move and then people...